Dr. Christopher West here, Theology, the Body Guy. Today we're going to be looking at a quote from Cardinal Cantalamessa, in which he says, human sexuality is the first school of religion. What the heck does that mean? Let's take a look. Human sexuality is the first school of religion? That's not the brand of religion I grew up with. When I was a kid going to Catholic schools in the 70s and 80s, religion class I could summarize with one word: boring. Religion was about rules to me. Religion class was the boring part of the day where we had to talk about all that religious stuff that never really connected with my heart. If I had grown up knowing human sexuality was the first school of religion, I don't know, maybe there would have been more of a connection. I'm remembering Catholic school days. I remember wanting to get my transistor radio and climb my favorite tree, get up to my favorite spot where it had these nice armrests and leg rests, and I would wait for my favorite song to come on the radio. And that was a moment for me where my heart was alive. I was in touch with something. I remember when the girl I had a crush on since kindergarten, when the nuns finally rearranged the room and she was sitting right next to me, that awakened something in my heart. None of what was getting awakened in my heart, though, as a kid, was getting connected with what I was learning in religion class. Let's look at this word religion. The world starts to be illuminated when we look at the origin of words. The word religion has its roots in a Latin word, religare, and it means to form bonds. We're all looking for love. If we're honest with ourselves, if we take our masks off and we look at the shape of our longing, we want a love that lasts. We want to form bonds. That's religion, religare, to form bonds. And our human relationships are meant to be a little glimmer of the ultimate bond, the thing that binds everything together, the thing that is behind everything, our origin and our destiny, the bond of love from which we come, and the bond of love to which we're returning. And the name of that love is God. If religion is about forming bonds, then it has everything to do with human sexuality. Indeed, as Cardinal Cantalamessa says, human sexuality is the first school of religion, of forming bonds. But if that is the case, I think we look at our world today and we can pretty much conclude we're flunking out of this religion class because our experience of sexuality is not helping us to form bonds. And I have an insight here to share with you as to why this might be. In 1936, a book was released called The Sexual Revolution by William Reich. And listen to this. Listen to what he says. He stated explicitly that the goal of the revolution he wanted to inspire was to replace the religious sense of erotic desire with the scientific view that erotic stirrings are merely, quote, physical excitations that come from bioelectric processes in the tissues. Okay, let's contrast this idea that erotic desire is just this physical thing that is stimulating biological processes in our tissues. Let's contrast that view with the view that what's getting stirred in our erotic desires is a longing for a religious bond, the unity of love that unites us with others, that forms family bonds, right? And family bonds being the foreshadowing of the ultimate family we're all destined to be part of, which is God's family. Very different pictures here. Reich goes on by insisting that what we think are religious yearnings are in fact a vegetative function which man shares with all living nature, and which strives, this urge, right? It strives for development, activity, and pleasure in the form of flowing, surging sensations. If we reduce human sexuality to nothing but urges and sensations in our tissues that have to be expressed. Well, what do other human beings become? Human sexuality will no longer be seen as the arena for forming lasting bonds. Rather, human sexuality will be seen as recreation for our own pleasure. I'll hang out with you so long as you give me this pleasure. As soon as you don't, I'm off to find my pleasure elsewhere. Reich himself understood that this was what would happen. Check this out. His revolution did not need to fight religion directly, he said. Rather, it just needed to secure the sexual happiness of the masses. And by sexual happiness, he means the indulgence of these desires to stimulate these bioelectric processes in our tissues. He says if we achieve this brand of sexual happiness via the findings of modern science, the need for religion for forming bonds would disappear. There was just one problem with his approach, however, to this kind of sexual happiness. In the process of attaining it, as he himself unapologetically acknowledged, the family will disintegrate irrevocably. These are our two options. When we treat human sexuality as a bioelectric process in the tissue that needs to be stimulated, the bonds that human sexuality is meant to form will disintegrate. The family will collapse. He goes on to casually dismiss any need for concern here by naively assuring his readers that any problems arising from the collapse of the family will, quote, be constantly discussed publicly and overcome, unquote. In Reich's mind, this was the necessary price to pay for seeing whether Christianity was right, that religion and human sexuality go together. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that Reich's view of human sexuality is holding sway in our world today. And I would only add this, that you would be hard-pressed to find any of the miseries that the modern world is in, the deep pain, the deep despair, the deep disconnection from one another, the racial riots we're facing, the hatred of one another, that cannot be traced in one way or another to having embraced William Reich's brand of sexual happiness as the stimulation of bioelectric processes in our tissues at the expense of religious bonds, family bonds, bonds that really satisfy the deepest desires of our hearts. Human sexuality is indeed the first school of religion. And if you feel like you've been flunking out of this school, then I invite you to come and study more about how human sexuality in God's plan can help us form these bonds that truly satisfy the deepest longings of our hearts. I teach for the Theology of the Body Institute a series of courses. I invite you to click the link below to learn more. If you've enjoyed this video and you know somebody else who needs to see it, share it. Also share a comment and subscribe to our channel. I have lots more to share with you. Till next time.